What up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. And today we have a very, very interesting story. We have a question that I never thought I would ever be asking, especially not on this channel. And that question is Drake broke? Now, I know that seems crazy because people run around, they call him a billionaire all the time, right? They talk about how much money he has, how incredible his catalog is, how much it's sold. But when you start breaking things down, a lot of things don't add up. And this is why I wanted to pull out this video. This is by What's the Dirt, everybody's favorite pale-faced demon. I'm joking. I love his stuff, but he documents a lot of Drake's stuff. You know what I mean? And talks about him. And he's the one who kind of brought this to my attention. Now, people were originally talking about this stuff during the Kendrick beef as well, too, about all Drake's shell companies, about his net worth, and how real this actually is. Now, this has me kind of wondering, because for a while I just thought Drake was rich and he's a billionaire. But when you really start looking at it, you start thinking different shit. You're like, yo, is this guy rich, or has he just been propped up by advances this whole time? People call him a billionaire, but it says 250 million. So this is what he is on record for having. He also is on record for having over 20 shell companies. So over 20 LLCs. We're going to talk about that a little bit later and why that matters and why that's a huge part of his entire net worth and whether or not his net worth is fraudulent a lot. So here's What's the Dirt talking about his net worth.
Into what Drake actually owns versus what he actually spends, a couple uncomfortable questions show up. Is Drake actually a billionaire? Or does he have a spending problem that's way bigger than what people realize?
And this is what I've heard for a while. I mean, obviously, I don't know Drake. You don't know Drake. But if you look at the way he spends way more than the average rapper. I mean, he spends so much that rappers talk about it in their rap songs. That's a lot of money. J. Cole's talked about it, how he's throwing 5. Drake is throwing 50. 21 Savage, I believe, has even talked about it before. So there's people who are talking about his known spending, which means it's an open secret, and for a lot of people, when you have money coming in, it can look like you have a lot of money, but realistically, you're just spending a lot of money and that money is getting re-upped. So it looks like you have tons of shit, but you could be broke. And this happens to even the most important people. I mean, look at MC Hammer, one of the most famous hip hop acts at the time, making the most money at the time, went broke.
The only billionaire that I know that don't want people to know he a billionaire.
37-year-old billionaire.
Before we get into anything, you need to understand one thing. The net worth numbers that you see online are fake. Celebrity net worth websites don't verify anything. They don't talk to accountants. They don't have access to contracts. They literally just guess.
That is very true as well, too. So also another thing with net worth, you got to realize that net worth doesn't necessarily mean liquid money that you can just pull out of like an ATM, right? They're not talking about that. Net worth is more everything that you have. So it's your assets, it's, your property, your cars, plus the money that you are making from different deals and the money that you have in the bank. So a lot of times they can be very, very skewed. I mean, Lil Wayne has talked about, how his net worth isn't real. Like they think that he has way more money than he actually has because, again, with spending habits, he might have this house, he might have that, but realistically, he's not selling those things. These are things that he has because he wants them and he's planning to keep them and pass them to his kids. So if you're not selling your house, then it's not real money to you. Therefore, your net worth might be this, but that doesn't mean you actually physically have that money. So I'm glad that he brought it up. But basically, we're going to talk about how Forbes and all that stuff dictates how much money you actually have when they're talking about it.
Publicly available information or the celebrity handing over the receipts themselves.
Yes.
Kanye was a billionaire for years before they gave it to him, and that was just off the Adidas Yeezy deal. So when they crowned someone like Rihanna a billionaire, they didn't just magically guess her net worth. Forbes simply followed the paper trail.
Yeah, exactly. So She might not be a net worth. She might not be a billionaire in the sense of in the bank, but because of her $1 billion deal through Fenty and Kanye's $1 billion Yeezy deal, he is a billionaire. This is always how they've done it with not even just rappers, but influential people as well.
Fenty Beauty publicly hit a 2.8 billion valuation, and because it's public knowledge that Rihanna owns 50% of that company, her billionaire status was automatic. With that said, there's a lot that Forbes can't see. Forbes cannot track privately owned companies. If a celebrity fails to reveal their business's revenue, like how Fenty did, Forbes has nothing to calculate.
And this is a big thing too, where, you know, you could say Drake is broke, but I also think there's a little bit to be said about the fact that he might just be very, very good at hiding his money. You know, that's the biggest thing. It's just the fact that he has money and he knows where to put it. Not only did he grow up having a certain amount of money, he wasn't like a mansion rich kid, but he did have some money. I believe his family had some money as well too. And he grew up as a child actor, right? So even then, he knew how to put money in certain things, you know, to make it look like he's only making a certain amount so that it doesn't get taken away by taxes and other things. This is stuff that people usually learn later on in life, but since he started in the entertainment industry at such a young age, you know, it makes sense why he would know some of this shit. Plus, let's be honest. I mean, Drake's Jewish, growing up in the show business, he might know a couple things. I mean, it doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt.
In the case of Drake, he has 52 LLCs in his name, which seems fishy, but they're all private. Yeah. Forbes can't track ownership stakes, jewelry, offshore holdings, private investments, contract agreements, or private real estate.
And this is a thing too. So Drake does have over 20 LLCs, and I want to talk about that. So when you're talking about these LLCs, right, a lot of this stuff came out during the whole Kendrick thing, right? They talked about how he has all these like fake companies. And obviously, when he was getting kind of having that Diddy narrative thrown on him, it doesn't look good because a lot of people, when they have shell companies, they have shell companies for nefarious dealings, whether that be drugs, some sort of trafficking or of some sort, right? It's usually not a good thing. But when you're somebody like Drake, and you're somebody who's been in the entertainment business for so long, it makes sense why you might have some of these things. And this is a guy, his name is, you know, the Music Money Makeover Show. You know, he talks a lot about the music industry and how to deal with money in the music industry. So I want to hear him talk about it, and let me know what you guys think.
Now, I don't want you to fret about it. I don't want you to dismiss it, because as an artist, someday, more than likely, you will probably be sitting in his shoes just like him, or standing in his shoes.
Exactly. It's not, you know, he could be into some shit. I'm not putting that past famous people. Famous people do all sorts of crazy shit, especially Diddy. So it is very, very possible. But just know that just because somebody has all these things, that doesn't necessarily mean he has a shipping container full of women from another country that he's trying to sell. It does not mean that. It could, but it doesn't automatically mean that.
Just like him. So let me break this down. My name is Casey Graham, and this is the Music Money Makeover Show.
Make sure to like and subscribe to this guy's channel because he has some great stuff. We're going to talk about the shell companies. So just fast forward right here.
Shell corporations are called such because they don't usually have active business operations or significant assets, even if those who own them do. Okay. Now, while they're often perceived as being used to facilitate illegitimate dealings, due to the ability to blur owners, business expenditures, many of these corporations are legally used. Now, legitimate reasons for using shell companies include, but are not limited to, startup businesses using the company as a vehicle to raise funds or to go public, and general confidentiality. Now, such corporations are used by everything from large conglomerates to private individuals.
So it's just a good way to hide money, like I was saying. And this, again, is where you can pull up the idea of, like, is Drake just broke and he's trying to figure out ways to dodge debts? Because that's another reason you might have a shell company as well, too, because maybe you owe other corporations money. You're getting sued, like Drake was trying to do to UMG. And I believe they might even countersue. So you might put money into shell companies and be like, hey, listen, all I have are my personal assets, and my actual liquid money isn't really here right now. I don't have that. I that's all for work. And because of that, they might not be able to sue him for a certain amount. There are a lot of rich people who have claimed bankruptcy before in order to get out of debts that they've owed. Plus, this is America. And if you know anything about American finance, it's actually good to have a certain amount of debt. And the government and the financial world in America actually rewards you for having different companies. Each company is represented almost separately as an individual person. So you can have tons of debt as you, the person. Like, Aubrey Drake Graham can have mad debts, owe niggas mad money. But if he has an LLC, opens up that LLC and then puts a bunch of money into that LLC, it doesn't necessarily mean that LLC will be liquidated. They're not going to take that money because that's a separate person who is owned by Aubrey Drake Graham, if that makes sense. So I don't know, man. When it comes to this money stuff, I think he has a really, really good way of hiding it rather than not having any money at all. But let's go into the some of the assets that he has as well too, because there's quite a bit.
$15 million Texas ranch. It looks like a perfect place to chill out, get away from the noise. It's got like horses and shit. It looks relaxing. So just with these 3 public homes alone, Drake's...
Yeah, so he has one for $15 million. He has another one for, I believe, $250 million on Bridle Path. And then he had another one that I believe is around $75 million. So just with those homes, it is quite a bit of money.
net worth is already at $205 million. And let's be realistic. Do you really believe that's all Drake owns? Is 3 properties?
I'm out here making a mockery. I got my realtor out here playing Monopoly. How can I address you when you don't own property?
It's impossible to know how much money Drake has floating around in private real estate.
Exactly. That's another reason why you have these shell companies. You know what I mean? You start losing money. Certain people that want to see you want to start taking shit away. I don't own that. My company owns that. So now I don't have to sell that home, you know? And he has multiple other assets as well, too, which we're going to go into. Lots of memorabilia is a big thing.
Valued at around $500,000. Insiders believe that Drake owns more Tupac items, but it's just not public. The man even has an official Michael Jackson glove for $420,000, plus a signed Thriller album that is so rare the value is unknown. We saw some of these items in the Family Matters video.
The honorable thing is
That's crazy. I mean, you know, I knew he had a lot of memorabilia. He has a lot of different rappers' chains and stuff. He brags about that. He's had tons and tons of things. One thing, though, I will say is that, you know, if you have another rapper's chain or something, or just you're a rapper who buys customized chains in general, it can be a good idea, but it can also be, in a way, a depreciating asset. If you were somebody like Drake, then yes, Drake is Drake. So anything he owns will eventually become memorabilia, and that's something that people will definitely buy, even if they don't listen to hip hop, right? But if you're another guy, if you're someone like T-Pain, that might be a little bit more of a depreciating asset, because someone's not going to buy that chain unless they love T-Pain. Like, I actually pulled up a video of T-Pain when he was bringing out some of his chains, and he himself has said some of these things, you know. So let's hear what he has to say about
You got this big chain that said big, you know what? Chain. I think you got a big ass chain.
I do.
Where is the big ass chain now?
The T-Pain big ass chain is horrible.
How much did you pay for that big ass chain?
400,000.
You really wasted 400,000 on this.
Absolutely. That's one of my biggest fucking regrets.
And that's what I mean. Like, of course, you know, yes, it has all those valuable diamonds in it, and it's amazing, but it's a customized chain. If you were trying to make money and appreciate assets, you know, you would buy something a little bit more simple, a little bit more generic, right? So that you can sell it off to any lady, like, right? So if you have jewelry, imagine, just think about it. You know, the people who mostly buy jewelry are women, right? So if you buy a chain, you should get a chain that is a little bit more generic. A man can wear it, a woman can wear it, right? She'll buy that. But if you are T-Pain and you get a chain that just says big ass chain, the only person buying that is somebody who loves T-Pain, knows the reference, and has enough money to buy that. And that is a much smaller pool of people. you know. And this is why a lot of rappers have kind of went broke, is because they have these chains, they buy all these things, and nobody really wants them back. So they have to sell these things for way less than what they bought it for, you know. And in a way, Drake has to kind of think of this as well too. But it's a little different for him because he's a global superstar. So like I said, in the similar era of Michael Jackson, you know, if he's selling something, then it's like, hey, Drake's chain is on auction. It's almost like having like you know, a fucking a pen that, like, you know, Rembrandt used to have or something, or, you know, a guitar that Chuck Berry used to own, right? There's certain things that are just really, really high when it comes to memorabilia, especially in music. So it's a little different for him, but for most people, it's a little bit of a death trap to have all these chains and random things.
Speaking of family matters, there's even a
also, he probably has some of these shell companies so that he could have them own some of the memorabilia, so that they don't get taken away, again, because of legal issues.
Pablo Escobar autograph that shows up, which is so rare that I couldn't even find a public valuation for it. These are items that you would usually find in a museum that he's just got in his house. And this is where net worth calculations get very difficult, because so much of Drake's collection isn't publicly listed anywhere. Because he collects a lot of different things, it's impossible to know what else he has. Like the time he dropped over $200,000 on sealed NBA flawless card boxes.
Exactly. It's wild. The amount of money this guy truly has, whether it's in show companies or just in his pockets, is fucking crazy. You know, this dude, not only is he doing world tours, but then he does side quests like this, where he just buys 1 million packs of baseball cards and just opens them up, randomly gets a Michael Jordan rookie card. Look at this.
Nobody really knows what rare cards Drake has
Crazy.
in his possession,
Crazy.
or just how large his card collection actually is.
Insane.
Show us. Oh my God.
Now, when it comes to sports, there are some things that we do actually know. Drake owns signed, game-worn jerseys from Kobe, Jordan, LeBron, Rodman, and a long list of other legends. This is huge when you look at the fact that a single Jordan jersey could go anywhere from $15K all the way up to the millions.
And it wouldn't surprise me if he has a $10 million one, man. I mean, but one thing is for sure, though, I feel like on top of all these assets, he does spend a massive amount. And yes, that is part of being what a rapper is. You kind of, especially when you're his status of rapper and you're the type of rapper that he is, you're going to talk about how much money you have, all this different shit. But he also likes to gamble as well too, man. And I think that is one thing that should not be overlooked. Yes, he does get paid by stake. He makes, I believe, like $100 million a year from them. So that's great on him. He's getting a lot of free money to gamble with. But he's a dude who I wouldn't be surprised if he spends a lot more money than comes in. And the shell companies are just ways for him to kind of stay afloat and possibly even get loans from banks. But we're going to go a little later in the video and see some of this stuff too, because it's pretty interesting, all the different shit he has going on.
Also owns the Share Club, which is an exclusive lounge in the Air Canada Centre. And of course, he works with the gambling company Stake, which reportedly pays him $100 million a year.
Which is huge, because if they give you $100 million a year to bet with, I wonder if when he wins, they just let him keep that money. I wonder if that's in the contract, because if it is, that's massive. You know what I mean? That's huge. But that can also, you know, aid in having a bit of a gambling problem, which I feel like Drake does, if I'm being real. Also, both Aiden Ross and Drake are currently being sued for false advertising for Stake, because they have been acting like the money that Stake is paying them is their personal money, and that those are real losses when they lose shit. Realistically, you're just playing with house money and trying to advertise and get young people to spend their own money and go broke, which I don't really like.
Mind, these are just the companies that we actually know about that are public. With the Stake deal, the OVO clothing line, the production company, the whiskey, the Share Club, the Nocta deal, and all the companies we just named, it's very fair and conservative to say that this bumps Drake's net worth up to a minimum of $750 million. When you
Goddamn.
consider just how recognizable this owl has become, like the IP, the assets of OVO, like this is a big company. Then last but not least, the sole reason why any of the other categories even exist is Drake's music, aka his catalog. And yes, if he owns the music, this is part of his net worth. One thing that is believed is that Drake does not seem to own 100% of his catalog, as it's indicated his earlier music was sold off by Young Money Cash Money.
And this is one thing I want to bring up also. I think, there's no secret that I feel like Drake is in the second half of his career, and the sun is definitely starting to set on the love that people have for him. And people want to shit on, the music that he makes, and that's cookie cutter music and everything. And, why doesn't he take a break? And I think this is why. I don't necessarily think that he's going broke, but I think he's upset that his best music in the earliest part of his career is not fully owned by him. I think he does have some of his masters, but it's possible that he doesn't have any of them. This is all speculation. But I think this is a reason why he's putting out so much music all the time now. Because he's like, this stuff is shit that I fully own. So he's like, no matter what, I have the interest of these people. They pay attention to me. I have these fans, and this music might not be the best, but I'm going to put out so much of it and flood the system and really up these streams so I can make this money back and have it at least count for something, because I lost so much of the earlier part of my career. So it kind of sucks. People wanted to say that it was because he was going broke. I don't necessarily think it's because he's going broke. I think it's just more because he just is greedy and he wants more money.
Which at one point sadly included Drake's master recordings. With that said, it's believed that Drake does own music after 2018, and based on the music he's released, that catalog alone is worth $250 million plus. Now, if he can actually get ownership of his full catalog, Drake's catalog is worth $1 billion easily. Now, some of you might be,
and this is right. When it comes to the first couple of albums, if you're going all the way from, So Far Gone to about if you're reading this, It's Too Late or Scorpion, it's well over $1 billion. And that's really where the bulk of his money would come from if he has all those masters. But we've seen it here. We went over the different shell companies. We went over the assets that this man has as far as watches, memorabilia, chains, housing, all these different properties. So we can tell between all that and all the endorsements he has, his net worth is definitely for sure over $1 billion. But again, like I said, you can never tell with all these shell companies what money is in what, how much money he actually has as liquid. And with these different lawsuits that he's going through right now, I wouldn't be surprised if he tries to project an idea or string a narrative along about how he doesn't actually have that much money, because I know UMG is trying to countersue. So I wouldn't be surprised if in the next couple months we start hearing about how Drake is broke and people start kicking his back in about that. But what do you guys think? Do you think this man actually has this $1 billion? He maybe has more, or do you think he's dying inside? He got a slave deal from UMG and he's